We're going to be starting with creating a very basic HTML structure page. And I just want to show you, the various important elements in any website code, in a basic website code. All right, so for a basic structure, for a basic website, every basic website has a head, a body, and a footer. Some persons prefer to just, build the head and the body, but I'm going to just take us through a very simple sample code that would render a very basic website in our browser that has a head, a body, and a footer. So let's go. Now that we have installed Visual Studio, start with opening your Visual Studio Code environment. All right, and then I'm going to click on New Text File. And I'm going to start with what I call the HTML element. So let's start by building a very simple HTML website. And I'm going to show you the main elements that go into the website. Like I mentioned before, a basic website needs a head, a body, and a footer. Let's dive in. First, you need to open your Visual Studio Code and then open a new text file. The first element is a HTML element. What this does is that it tells the browser that the code it's about to interpret is a HTML code. Next, we have the head. Now, like you can see, why I recommended Visual Studio Code is that Visual Studio Code helps you to add what we call the closing tag the moment you add an opening tag. So the first opening tag here is head, and then the closing tag has a / to show that the head has been closed. And then we can go ahead to open up the body using the body tag. And then lastly, we're going to add the footer. And we close the HTML tag by the time we are done with creating the head, the body, and the footer. Now, what basically goes into the head are what we call our meta tags. We're going to be learning about those in subsequent classes. But for now, we're going to be sticking with adding a title. And we do that by adding a title tag. And the title I'm going to give this is sample website. Okay? Now that's all for the head. Now for the body, I'm just going to throw in a bunch of random tags to show some other tags that we can, make use of in HTML. So I'm going to start with a header tag. For headers, we have 6 levels of headers in HTML. So we have H1 to H6. The higher the number, the smaller the size of the header. All right, so I'm just going to put H1, H3, and H6 to show us these different sizes of the various tags. So for H1, I'm going to write this is a H1 tag. For H3, this is a H3 tag. And then for H6, this is a H6 tag. All right. Then I'm also going to add some bit of text, a paragraph, using the paragraph tag, which is basically P. Okay. So I'm just going to write this is a sample paragraph. You can write a whole lot of text here. Or even write a very long essay. Okay. Now for the footer, I'm just going to put one paragraph. And I'm sure you are very familiar with this, where you see copyright 2024 sample website. Okay. Now that we are done, you need to go back to File, Save. I'm going to save this to my desktop, and I'm going to call this sample.html. Always ensure that you take note of the extension that you are using to save the file. I'm going to save it as sample.html in my desktop, and then I click Save. Now all I need to do, I'll minimize Visual Studio Code, and then on my desktop, you can see the sample.html file that I just created. Now, because I have Google Chrome already installed, once I click on sample.html, it opens up in Google Chrome. And like you can see, this is a H1 tag, this is a H3 tag, and this is a H6 tag. Like I mentioned before, the higher the number for the header tag, the smaller it is. You can see H6 is smaller than H1, and it's also smaller than H3. And then you have the paragraph, and then you have the copyright. I understand that this website is pretty ugly, and that is where CSS comes in. CSS is what adds beauty, colors, and positioning to our website. And then, like I said before, JavaScript helps us to add interactivity to our website. Yes,